We're live now. Yay! My beautiful sister from Botswana and Swatini. How do we say that? So good to have you in the room. So good to have you in the room. Hello, everyone. I see you. I see Doreen from Kenya. I see Anrisa. I see Choma. You're welcome. Where are others? Join. Let's have a beautiful conversation this evening. Leading yourself before you lead others. That's the conversation for tonight. And we're rounding off. What a beautiful way to round off the Focus Village Summit that started out on Monday. In fact, at some point, I was like, oh my God, God. But I'm re-energized. From yesterday, I tried to feel the vibe again. We are here now. Thank you, Shepo Delayakosi. I hope I'm correct. All right, go ahead and introduce yourself, ma'am. Introduce yourself to the house.
Hello, everyone. Whether you are in Kenya, South Africa, Nigeria, Canada, yes,
Zimbabwe.
all over the world, different parts, Zimbabwe, Botswana, my country. Hello, if you are there.
Mm,
Eswatini, if you are there. For Eswatini is formerly called Swaziland, but yes,
mm,
hello, viewers all over the world. Thank you so much for having me on
mm.
this amazing stage, for the Female Focus Summit. I'm excited to be here. And I am Tepo. It's pronounced Tepo, Tselaya Kosi. And I
Okay.
am from Botswana. I am the co founder of an enterprise development firm called Innovative Instigation Enterprise. So
Mm,
in short, it's IIE. Yes.
interesting.
So yes. What
What
else
do
should I talk about?
what what do you do? What do you do in your organization?
Okay, in our organization, we help people to start, build, and grow brands and enterprises. Basically, what it means is that you we're helping people to build brands and build sustainable enterprises or business models around their brands. So that
Mm,
brand it could be a personal brand, it could be a social enterprise brand, it could be a product brand, it could be an event brand. We've dealt with different types of brands and we still continue to. The whole thing is about someone knowing what it is that they want to be able to do, or have maybe some clarity or some idea about their aspirations, like the vision, and then trying to put it together in a way that's going to help them to make the type of impact they want and do it in a manner that's sustainable. So some people want insights or ideas in terms of just to monetize. How do you make money from what it is? How do they improve
yes,
what they
so
already
very
have?
important.
Some are starting from scratch, all that.
Mm,
Yes.
interesting. I said I'm interested in the money part.
Yes,
Oh my
but the money part can be linked to many things. So sometimes it's about helping people to audit and understand what's working, what can be improved, and all of that. And sometimes people don't know that maybe they are even leaving money on the table. They don't
God.
recognize, how they've structured the actual brand concept, the architecture itself, all of those
Mm,
things. So there's a lot that is involved in branding. It's not even just like your logos and color palettes and all of that. Yes.
someone says me too. The money is important. All right. Thank you for joining us this evening. So the subject of discussion is centered around self-leadership. Leading yourself before you lead others. The woman in the mirror. So I want to ask you, what does self-leadership actually mean to you? And when did you first realize it was something you needed to actively do yourself?
Okay. self leadership is what happens basically just because you're alive. Because, first of all, this degree of self awareness that somebody needs to have. You need to know that, okay, this is me, this is what I'm about, this is what it matters to me, these are the things I don't want, and these are the things that I can allow, this is what I'm passionate about, all of those things. That's part of your
Mm,
self awareness and what makes you who you are. And then for you to, there are things that light you up, there are things you want to achieve. And the collection of all of those things and working towards them involves self leadership. It involves, making decisions. It involves planning. It involves taking action steps to work and to work towards it. Whether it's, I mean, in their diversity, there are so many things that you could be going to do, like getting mentorship or going for training or reading, all of those things. That's self
mm,
leadership. Or having a meeting like today, deciding that I'm going to show up in these type of platforms because you must know why. How does it align to what you are about, as I said? And so when did I realize that it's something that you need to that I need to actively pursue or engage? Um, I think just from the onset of just growing up, because sometimes when you're in a situation, maybe I might not have known that, okay, this is called self leadership. you know
mm,
it's later, as I was growing much older, that I realized that, okay, this is what leadership entails. This is me leading myself, working on my goals, going in particular directions, saying yes to what I need to say yes to, saying no to what I need to say no to. So in growing up, you get asked questions. Do you want this? No, I don't want this. Do you prefer this? Yes, I prefer this. Why do you want this? So I think already from there I knew. And if it's been taken away from me, experiencing maybe depression, for example, because I've had that, that's when I saw that, okay, no, no, no. I can't just watch things happening. I need to participate, and I need to be able to say no if it's not working for me. There are certain things that if decisions are just being made for me and I'm not involved and I'm passive about it, then I'm getting affected or I feel suffocated and helpless about my own life, but yet I'm the one who's living it. So I would say, to name it or what, maybe as early as high school, that's where I realized that, okay, there is something like leading myself, but I never called it that, though I understood the importance of it. Because when it was taken away and nobody was listening to me, I knew the importance of having me involved, and what matters to me or what I would prefer, and also being consulted about it. Even though I was a child, yes, they can say that.
mm. That's quite interesting. Thank you so much for taking us there. Laying that foundation is enough for us to be able to take this to the next level. So I wanted to talk about the hardest part of leading yourself honestly, especially the part that most women don't want to go. What is that part for you? What is it like?
The path where most women don't want to go.
Yes, the hardest part of leading yourself.
I think that when you're leading yourself, you don't always have the answers. Sometimes, as much as we'd like to be given options, and we're always hearing I don't know if I can call them cliches in some sense, that, um, I'm in charge and I'm the one who's going to drive the steering wheel and all of that. But at the same time, we don't always have the answers. And if you don't have the answers when you're leading yourself, it can be hard. It's just a reminder, honestly, that no one is an island. We need the
Mm,
input of other people in our lives, whether it could be from a point of advice or helping us to gain clarity. And for clarity to be gained, sometimes it's, yes, you are in motion, you are you're participating, or you're interacting with other people, and then maybe being in conversations with them just as we are, then that's when you'll be able to maybe find that clarity that can help you to make that self leadership much easier. Because sometimes when you don't know something, or you think you know, but or you're not, or you don't know what to ask, um
mm,
that can also be hard, because you won't even know where to get help in the first place. So when you put yourself in spaces like the one that we are in now, there are things that, nuggets and insights that you can gain, and then from there you can say, oh, first of all, I'm not the only one who's going through this person is going through it, um, but then they went through it in some other way, not exactly like mine,
mm,
and then they said they did this. Oh, okay, that means I can possibly do this. So you get ideas. um,
absolutely.
yes. So the hardest part of self-leadership is when really, um, that you don't have all the answers. You
Mm,
don't really have to have all the answers at the same time, because sometimes that's also a call to action to go deeper, and
mm,
slow down a bit, so that you can have more clarity and certainty. Yes.
mm, That's quite interesting. See, dancing with authenticity. I think it was on the two I spoke about it. That a lot of times you don't really know what to do, but how do you continue to move on? And that is the hardest part of leadership, and that's why a lot of people are not really consistent on this path. So I really love you to talk about that. Holding yourself accountable, because when you see that you are not clear about what you're looking out for, you are not clear about the results, you are not clear about the future, it can be so difficult to continue on this path. So how do you hold yourself accountable without sliding into self-condemnation, analytic paralysis, or even perfectionism? How do you do that? Have you been able to do that in your life? Have you been able to hold yourself so accountable?
All right. Because firstly, no one is an island, as I had mentioned before.
Yeah.
You have to interact with people to accomplish certain milestones. So that holding ourselves accountable, I mean, is done on multiple levels. There's,
Mm,
if someone is married, they let's talk about if it's a woman, yes, that accountability comes with their spouse. There's also, if
mm,
somebody is a woman of faith, you do present your things, or your vision and the plan and all that to God, you know, that higher being, but I'll say God in my case. And then um, there's also just maybe being part of a mastermind,
mm.
and
Interesting.
basically where you are all working towards a common goal. So then you're going to talk about that. And in that space is the same space where it will be helping us to deal with those hard parts where you know, maybe you would have struggled to find clarity. So the key is not to put yourself in isolation. You know, be
Mm,
in communities, be part of communities of people who are working towards uh, similar goals about particular areas of your life. That's part of the structures that you put in place to hold yourself accountable. And it shouldn't just be where it's just you having written something down, but where you can be asked, why did you choose this? We agreed to this, you know,
mm,
what's lacking and all of that. And then the other part is probably or possibly to have a coach or a mentor as well. So those are the things that can help with holding, the accountability
self
in
account.
place. And
Mm,
yes, and it will also help with minimizing the whole self-condemnation, because in the first place, if you're around people who are like-minded, working towards the same things, then
mm,
you're going to hear from them. You will see that, oh, you're not the only one. So there's that relatability. But then with a coach, hold you accountable, give you constructive feedback and all of that. So that's someone on a professional space. But then because, there's we are triunal beings, body, soul, and spirit.
yeah.
So there's the faith part and involving the higher being, which to, as I said, with my in my case it's God, and then your spouse if someone is married, right? So that's
mm,
basically how I hold myself accountable. And then I know on my side what I would have said I want, and I would have presented and shared it with, um, these parties as I've said.
Self-leadership is really beautiful. It means that
So
you have to be ready to do the work across board, right? You've got to be ready to do the work because you have to place yourself into such community for you to be able to receive accountability. And then getting a coach. I think from all the different speakers, we have said one thing again and again. We are also reiterating that right now, saying that you have to be ready to have a coach and a mentor, someone who can just be there to hold you on so that you can continue to really do the things you have told yourself you want to do. I love that. So I like you to break it down in practical sense. What does your daily self leadership practice looks like on a personal level? Want to get into your space? We are coming to Swahili now. What do you do on a daily basis? What are your non-negotiables? How have you been able to stay grounded on this path as a visionary yourself?
okay. Um Given building on to what we have already spoken about, firstly, what we just discussed right now about holding ourselves accountable, then if we know that okay for this quarter or for the year we are trying to accomplish these set things, then
Mm,
the daily activities are just making working on those bigger milestones, but on a smaller day-to-day scale, taking the steps daily, knowing that okay, for now maybe I needed to take some training, and then now it's time for me to implement what I was being trained on. So now I am now setting in developing the systems, and I'll give myself this time frame and all of that. So but definitely on a day-to-day basis, it means one, I must pray before anything, and not allow myself to maybe get sucked into social media and what. Yes, we are working on keeping our digital presence and all of that. Sometimes you have to check and follow up with some things when we're networking on a daily basis as a result of this involvement with social media. Then there's um, making sure that you have to eat and you're healthy, doing it in a healthy manner, not
mm,
being out of balance and only focusing on the maybe work and less of taking time out to rest, and
mm.
making sure that just there's we've often heard about work life integration. No, work
Yeah.
life balance. That's what I wanted to say first.
Work life.
And today I will call it
Yes. Work life balance.
um, instead of saying work life balance, I will say it's more of work life integration, because
Yeah. As a founder of
balance
your
implies
business.
that everything is always in check.
Yeah.
Now we have to try and see how will these things fit in together and all of that. It's not some linear thing that's just a straight. Some days are zigs, others are zags, other times it's,
That's it.
more smooth.
Mm,
So that's just what it is. And so when we start saying work-life balance, yes, what it means is a reminder. Don't just be consumed with work. As the
mm.
saying goes, all work and no play makes Jack and Jill dull boys and
Exactly.
girls. Yes, it's my own variation of it.
Like you've added that of the girls.
Yes.
I've not heard that one before. Mm. Go on.
Yes, because I'm a girl myself. Anyway,
Yeah.
yes. So those are some of the key non-negotiables. I need to also just have time to. The praying part is very important. I'm somebody who prays about everything, even when I want to make purchases and all that. As I'm looking through maybe some of the products or tools that we are using and all of that, if payments need to be made, I have to take the time out, cross check. Yes, I'm a co-founder, meaning there's the other co-founder, but personally as an individual, I need to understand that, okay, how does this work? Am I at peace with it? Why is it okay and all that? So the prayer part is always, it's not a negotiable to me. Of course, I
Mm,
don't impose it on anyone else, but generally, what it means is that because of that, how I lead, I always need to
mm,
check that whoever we work with, we have to have alignment with our values, what we stand for, what is important to us. Yes, some people, all they care about is that they want to make money. They don't care how they are making it, who gets affected, all of that. And for
mm,
me, that's a big matter. I do care about how it's made, and all the other things, how are people treated, and all of that. Those things affect sustainable profitability. You know, in all levels, not just from a monetary perspective. Yes, can
mm.
affect our health, our well-being, in yeah, in many ways, emotionally, physically, clinically, can get affected. So to keep myself in check and all right, it has to align, and I must be at peace with, whatever it is that we're doing, even if it's challenging, and we're navigating spaces that we have never navigated before. But that anchor and stability is brought about by the prayer part, and collaboration, making sure that our values, our goals are in alignment.
That's quite profound. Thank you so much. Can we also talk about emotional intelligence? What role does it play for a woman in leadership? Are you an emotional intelligent woman? Oh my God.
Emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
It's actually quite important. Um, for this particular month of April, actually, interestingly enough, I had to undergo mentorship about if you're doing follow-ups. Let's say you're trying to pitch yourself to potential
Mm,
clients and what. And one of the things that our coach was teaching us about was the role of, things like affirmations, and not being, how they help you to sort of condition your mindset and remind
yeah.
yourself before you start talking to prospects, because
Mm,
anything can happen. Somebody can insult someone that, are you like, they can make comments that are just crazy,
yeah.
and or make you feel some other way. So, he was putting all of these
Oh,
things
you
in
don't come
check,
back.
that you, when you're speaking to them, when you're speaking to people, how do you check yourself? Make sure you're not emotionally attached to any outcome whatsoever. Remember that
Mm,
the reason why you are following up is it's actually an act of service. It's
yeah.
not like you are begging anyone. You're just leading them and guiding them and helping them to decide,
Mm,
based on what you have to offer. But then at
mm,
the same time, before you can do any of those things, you need to try to understand or read where they are, understand them. Don't just come in and
yeah.
just throw at them what it is that you want, and you are in a rush. No, these are the goals and targets that you have set for the time, all of those things. So
Mm,
that's all about that emotional intelligence, because it's a combination. There's leadership involved, there's having compassion, like, and empathy, putting yourself in
mm,
someone's shoes. You can't put yourself in
mm,
someone's shoes if you don't even want to involve listening, for example. You don't even have the enough regard to know and try to understand where someone is coming from, what they're struggling with, because you first need to understand all of those things, even though you know what you have, your own goals. So it cannot just be um, self-centered or focused on your goals only. It's got to have, the empathy, the compassion, the that consideration, trying to understand and remember why you're doing it and all of that. But at the same time, even though you're understanding, you also have to know that you are serving. By you keeping
Yeah.
quiet, you're also doing them a disservice and all of that. So that balance and knowing when to say things and definitely emotional intelligence is a it's quite important in the journey of self-leadership.
Yeah. Interesting. So in the journey of self-leadership, there's so many things we have to learn. I think you've pretty much shared a lot, mentorship, mastermind, spoken about doing this on a daily basis, becoming more accountable, becoming honest with yourself, dancing with authenticity, and several other things you have shared. Now we're looking at emotional intelligence. So it's a journey indeed. Now we're going to look at how to lead ourselves well in seasons of transitions, in seasons of austerity, seasons of disappointment, when our motivation is low. Whether we like it or not, leaders, there are times your emotions will just be ziggy zaga. It will just be somehow like you don't even know what's going on. So how do you lead yourself in those seasons of transitioning? I know we have a lot of transitioning coach online. I think on LinkedIn, yeah. The lady that spoke last, she is also okay. That spoke first today. She's into transitioning as well. You can get coaches in that area if you are transitioning. But then, um, ma'am, Shepo is going to throw light on that based on her own personal journey as a visionary. How has she been able to transition in those seasons where motivation is low?
Wow. um I think that it still goes back to something I've already said, because I can let me first start off by giving an example. When I was
Okay.
dealing with grief, yes, when I was dealing with grief, um, grief is not something that's linear. I lost my grandfather. It's been a little over a year now. But when it first happened, yes, there's a time for us for to be alive. There's a time when dying happens as well. Um, and with my grandfather, it's not like it was a sudden thing. But at the same time, it doesn't change the fact that well, there is that this is someone in my who was my grandfather. So now when it was time. Yes, we went for the burial and everything, but it was like, okay, now it's time to get back to reality and do work and all of that. Sometimes I'll just find myself just not being able to do anything. Yes, my brain, I know that I need to do the work, and there are demands for me. Yes, the business was still up and running, but other times were hectic. I have to use just that word. So, in terms of navigating that, I was a part of a coaching program, and we had tasks to complete. So on my side, sometimes I just didn't complete them because what it required of me, like that engagement within me, like creativity and think about how I want to write or what I want to say, all of that, I just was not connecting with that. But I was with other people who were on that same journey. It goes back to being in a community of like minded people working towards similar things. So being in that community in that particular sense, it was virtual and engaging on people's content and getting to hear them asking questions, and just that was helping me, so that my focus is not just all on gloominess. So in this case, we were working towards what the coaching program was about. And I happen to have been dealing with the grief years, but some days were better than others. But it was just being in the presence and company of other people working towards that, towards something that I want, helped. um, yes, and I kept on going in terms of what, when I could do something, I would do it. When I couldn't, I just left it. But I showed up in terms of being in the community, and it helped me
mm,
to be able to come out of that. And then in terms of with the company, yes, our team members knew that, okay, this is what our co-founder is dealing with and all of that. So, yes, I would show up, and I was supportive in terms of what they needed, if decisions needed to be made and all of that. But um, of course, I wasn't as maybe bubbly and more heavily engaged as I normally would. But
mm,
we still showed up. We still worked on what needed to be worked on, and yes, and I got through it. After some time, it just got easier. Some of the spaces that I was in, like a networking platform that I'm a part of as well. Um, I spoke about my grandfather, his life, how it was like, what I've learned from him, those type of things, and did I know how I was going to feel the next day or weeks from there? No, I just took it one step at a time and spoke to people as I could, and then prayer. That was it.
mm,
So just watching other people, um, being in their world and doing what they're doing, but being able to talk to them, that's getting out and all of that, because we're social beings at the end of the day, that helped. And then
mm,
speaking about how you're feeling and what it's all about there helps. And then it's okay if sometimes you want to cry, well, cry. That's it, you
mm,
know. I embrace all of that. But I spoke about things, how I'm feeling, okay. And if I miss him, I'll say I really miss him. That's it. But how that helped was looking at what I learned from him, the legacy that he has left, you know, who I've become because of that, and other things, and just storytelling in that way. Those are some of the things that helped. So, with how I would feel, then the uncertainty of, you know, of grief, because it's not a linear thing. Other days are more heavier than others, right? And you don't know. But I didn't get depressed or anything. That's just an example. Yes. You lead yourself by being around other people who can support you, who are working on some aspect of commonality, whatever it is that you are working on. So, as I gave an example of um, a coaching program that I was a part of, and then number two, um, speaking about what you are going through. You could journal as well, you know, and
mm,
be able to have structured support, maybe from a professional sense, so that you can get guidance, you can get feedback, and then just the community of other people for various things helps, because when you're watching other people doing what they do, laughing, being silly, all of that, that also helps you. And it helps because it allows you to not focus on gloominess or crying and all of that. But at the same time, where there's a need to cry, then cry, and it's okay.
mm.
So, yes.
Interesting. Cry and move on. I think pretty much most of the things you've shared is they are centered around seeking for help. No man is an island. You have to be able to speak up, talk to other people, and some other personal things you've also mentioned, journaling, praying, and all of that. So I believe someone is listening because we are not all on the high side on a daily basis. So there are seasons that you just began, you face disappointment, you're transitioning. And one thing I've also realized in my own journey is the fact that each time there is a disappointment, I just realize that God is about to move me to another dimension, move me to another level. Can you hear me? Can you hear
Um,
me?
Yes,
We
but
lost you at some point.
your volume needs to increase.
Oh, my volume needs to increase? Okay. So I'm saying that most of the things we've shared around for transitioning as recipes for transitioning, they are centered around speaking up. Speaking up. A lot of people will want to work alone. Nobody can thrive in isolation. Like you said, speak to a mentor, speak to a professional, and all the things you've mentioned. And on a personal level, also ensure that you pray, journal, and do all that you can do best. Don't get to the level where you become so carried away with antidepressant and you don't have the capacity to do anything anymore. So as much as you can take steps, like you said, you also joined the community. When the community, even though you were not able to carry out most of the task, but you were just there listening and seeing what is ongoing, and that also helped you in one way or the other. That's quite interesting. So I like us to also talk about how a woman can treat herself privately, the relationship between treating yourself privately and then showing up in public leadership. How do we balance that relationship? I think I was having a conversation with someone recently and we were talking about their private life and um, their relationship outwardly and how they've been able to sort of balance it. Most often, it's not easy to do that, to balance it. And then we also took that conversation a bit deeper, talking about how we relate to our spouses, our partners, and sometimes the way you treat them inwardly, maybe in the private, and how they also treat you sometimes can also influence your leadership. So, in a nutshell, how do you create that relationship to know that when you're in public leadership, it's a different ballgame entirely than when you are also at home? I know that there's also the need for us to embody authenticity in all that we do, whereby there is an alignment between our private life and even our public persona. So, how do we create that relationship? And how have you been able to do that as a strong woman, as a tough woman? Oh my God.
Okay. Firstly, if I talk about it from a branding perspective,
Okay.
because I'm a brand
Let's do that.
strategist,
Yeah, it's
there's that
important.
consistency. There's that consistency. I'm the same. Like there's a part that is the core of who you are, whether you are in
Mm,
public or private. It
mm,
remains consistent. But then, of course, there's the other things that are happening in public have to do with the role that I'm playing per time. If I'm outside and I'm talking to students, then I'm showing up probably as a brand strategist, but more towards the career leadership advisor. So
okay.
the way I would act there is not exactly the same way as I would act maybe as a mom, you know, or someone's
Mm,
business partner. So the roles also determine
mm,
how I would be showing up. But in terms of the essence, at the core, there is who I am right through. And and that speaks to your values, the boundaries about it, and then what's the purpose and mission that everyone involved is going to maybe be engaged at, as far as I'm leading myself and leading privately and leading in public. But generally, um, without losing that authenticity, there has to be that consistency. Like there are things, like if you go back to how I started at the beginning of our conversation, it's having that clarity about who you are, what you're about, what are the boundaries, what are the non-negotiables, you know what do I want per time, why do I want it, how do I want it, when do I want it. You need all these specifics to be able to inform how you're going to lead, you know,
mm,
or if you're private, and also when you're in public space. And then obviously the boundaries that come with that come with the responsibilities across all these different roles and platforms that you are showing up in. But when you are private, of course there are things that are more permissible because you're in private. But then there are things that you cannot do when you're outside. Just like, for example, a very simple thing: someone is going to the bathroom. when you're in the bathroom, that's very sacred. There are certain things that you can't just do um, elsewhere. That's it. But when you're outside or you're on a podium, there's a certain etiquette, there are certain rules and what's allowed and what's acceptable. And then also you have to think about the impression that you are creating of yourself, the impression
mm,
that you are creating to other people in terms of, is it going to allow or block you from achieving the goals that you're trying to accomplish and make the impact that you're working towards. And all of those things go back to the self-awareness, and then leading yourself and knowing the appropriateness of each action per time. So that's just it. It really requires a lot of self-awareness and discipline, and of course the emotional intelligence as well. Yes, aside from what we've already
definitely.
spoken about, those systems and structure, having that in place as well. But yeah, there's governing rules. um, just as one more example, Eswatini is a kingdom, it's a monarchy. Botswana, which is where I'm from, it's a democracy. And
Mm,
what I would be allowed to do, even just in Botswana, just things that I could just say out in public or if I'm on the media, it's quite different to how things happen here in Eswatini, because of their governance, and that's all about leadership, of course,
mm.
but it's just a different type of a system. So what's allowed there and the protocols that are followed are quite different to in a
Mm.
democratic
Are you there? Okay, it's been
Yes,
quite
I'm
a
back.
beautiful conversation. I have one more question for you, but I'm just going to celebrate those of you that are watching, listening from different countries of the world. Please tell us your name and where you have joined in from. You are listening to my wonderful woman of vision, the founder of Innovation. Okay, let me not mess it up. But she's a co-founder of an organization. She's a brand strategist. She does so many amazing things, and she's wonderful. Like you can see that name, you can check her out on LinkedIn. Are you on Instagram with this name as well? Are you
Yes,
on Instagram?
but I'm more active on the LinkedIn. Not because there's
Okay,
something wrong with them, but it's been a journey of trying to understand that, okay, if I'm on Instagram, this is how I need to show up. If I'm on Facebook, this
okay,
is how I need to show up. Back to what we just said, my last response. How you are on Instagram isn't necessarily how you are on Facebook and also LinkedIn, because each of the
mm,
platforms have their own features, and that dictates, in a sense, how you're going to show up, but not because you are someone different at all. I think that they reflect where I was at when I was engaged in them. And then it became, okay, now I'm growing. I want to become more
so
systematic. How do I now embrace them? I haven't
you're flowing
abandoned
more.
them.
Okay, you're flowing more with LinkedIn right now, isn't it?
Right now it's more with LinkedIn, and yes.
Are you
Yes,
loving
I
it?
can be found. If you search for me using my name and surname, I will be found across all of the platforms. But in terms of most
Okay,
engagement, it's LinkedIn. And yes,
okay,
that was
interesting.
because I chose to focus and understand the platform better.
Mm,
Yes.
it's interesting. I too have also been using other platforms for the past years, but I've actually done a lot of trainings and focused on LinkedIn as well. And it's getting better by the day, even though we are engaged in other areas. Nonetheless, thank you so much. So if you want to reach out to her, that is the name. Make sure you copy it out very well. All right, the Lacoste Shefu. Okay, so I'm going to ask you one final question. This is the Focus Unit Summit. and I really want to celebrate you for the work that you do as well. I honor that, and I want to say kudos. Keep showing up, keep doing the work, and keep helping as many people as possible. And if you are here, you're looking forward to someone who work with you as a brand strategist, she is very much available. So the last question I want to ask you, how do you continue to grow and be led yourself even when you are also leading other people? How do you continue to grow as a woman of multi potentials? How do you continue to grow and be led? How do you place yourself in a position where you allow yourself to be led and groomed, even while you are trying to also do so for other people? How do you create a balance?
Okay. First of all, yes, your relationship with yourself is important, because you also know that, okay, when you are out there and interacting or leading other people, it's you are giving of yourself. So I can say, yes, you are pouring yourself out. So you also need to be nurturing yourself as well. You need to be receiving, you need to recharge, you need to have time to reflect and assess how things are going. Are you still on point? What worked in terms of what you've been trying to achieve? What hasn't worked? What needs to be improved? And all of those things. That is something that needs to be ongoing. It needs to happen daily in some of the things. Some of that needs to happen weekly, some monthly, some quarterly, and so forth. So it's about being able to do that. And then, because we spoke earlier about how no one succeeds alone, that you need to have structures and systems in place to support you, and that you need to also be part of communities of like-minded people, so that you can become the best of who you are supposed to be. And whether you're going through an uncertainty or not, that still comes across. It's still what's needed, right? So for you to grow is to have those things in place and be flexible, dynamic. You have to embrace that, because sometimes you may have had things, had in mind that you're going to follow a particular path, and then things maybe they don't work out as planned. Then you need to have
Mm,
that mindset that, okay, and willingness to adapt, because whether we like it or not, well, change is always going to happen. For whatever reason, it's going to happen. It could be triggered because of technology, maybe geopolitical issues happening, whichever country, America, Iran, all these other things, and then they have implications in
mm,
ways that you never expected. You have to have that openness and willingness to adapt, to adjust. And
mm,
it also may mean that you may need to go for training, get further support, so that you can increase your capacity to be able to handle the demands of these new changes and all of that. And all of those things are what allows us to grow, because as you are navigating through it, as you are learning, as you are reflecting, in that process you are also growing. As you are executing your steps and implementing strategy, you are growing, you know
mm,
because you're not remaining in one place. There are things happening, there's change happening, there's realizations that you're making, there are new opportunities that are coming up. You have to either adjust so that you can leverage them. That's where growing is happening. And then while all of that is happening, there's you leading yourself, and there's you allowing yourself to be mentored and coached and be supported. So in the process of that, there are instances where you are the one who's going to be led. Like if you're being coached, if you're being mentored, you are being led. If you're being a spouse, there's a part where you are being led as well. And then, of course, even from a spiritual side, there is where you are being led. There's no place where it's just someone who's just working by themselves as an island. So in all of that, in interacting, in immersing yourself in those supportive spaces and allowing yourself to have those structures of support, you then get to grow as long as you have that flexibility, that dynamism, healthy relationship with yourself, being able to reflect regularly as often, because obviously as you are moving things are happening, so you have to. That's how we grow. We don't just absorb, also we make sure that we execute what we have learned. Yes.
Mm. Thank you so much, ma'am, for all that you have shared with us. I think on this note, we are ready to be led, and we are also ready to continue leading as much as we have been fed today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We celebrate you for coming. We have rounded off on the focus training conversation for this very edition. I want to say thank you everyone for joining in. Ma'am, are you still there? I think, am I frozen or you're frozen? Which one? Which one? Is it
um
from my end?
I
Is
think
it
I'm
clear?
not frozen.
Okay, okay. So, I just want to say thank you for coming around, for sharing your wisdom to the woman in the mirror. Now we can look boldly and understand what it is that we should be doing and how to realign ourselves going forward. So I'd like you to give your final words to the focus female in the next 1 minute, and then we can call it a night. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I'd just like to say, have that openness, be willing to be around other people, because we don't know everything. No one is an island. And sometimes you don't even know what you don't know. So it's
Yeah,
always good to keep
blind spot.
connecting, going, attending to attending events and networking. Just have that openness to get perspectives in the form of events, in the form of podcasts, in the form of reading books and all of that. And also the community, being in community spaces like that, because the more you do that, the more you stay abreast of, changes and developments. You get to hear about other people's perspectives, which will help you, and you'll just also be interested in other people. That's also the lesson. I don't mean
Mm,
gossip, I just mean have an interest in terms of, oh, how are you
oh
doing
yeah.
this? Okay, their
Mm,
methodologies, their techniques, what were they going through? Just that compassion. The more you are like
mm,
that, the more you are going to have leverage, as long as it's going to be something that you're not just absorbing, but it's something that is,
mm,
it's always part of your vision, and
mm.
understanding that even though you have one, you're not an island, you live in an interconnected world. So, and and also just being a connector, trying to help other people with what you have learned or what you have found. That also helps you for yourself, in actual fact. So the more you do that, um, the more we will help each other to achieve what we want as well. So yes, that's just what I have to say. I'm looking forward to
Thank
connecting
you
with
so much.
everybody, meeting you guys
Yeah.
online, reading
Shekos,
our books,
Selaya
because we've
Kosi.
written
I know you're going
them.
to flog me very soon for this your name, but I love the name. And since you told me the meaning of the name, I love it so much. Okay, thank you so much for the blessing, for teaching us, for sharing your light, your wisdom. We've learned so much. Thank you, ma'am. Have an amazing night rest.
Yay! You too. And everyone else, thank you for coming. And we're looking forward to seeing you, connecting with you in our online spaces.
Yeah, bye. All right, people, I'm excited. Let's celebrate. You guys should pour me water. It's been an incredible journey for the past 5 days. Oh my God, I need to go and sleep. Like I'm going to sleep, sleep, sleep today. Who is still in the room with me? I see Kelechi, Uzo. I see Ebuche Faith, Mary. I see Jimo Oyenike. I see Doreen Wachira. Who is still in the room with us? We've learned so much from amazing woman from Eswatini. She shared a lot of wisdom, ideas, thoughts to really move us to the next level. The woman in the mirror, leading yourself before you even begin to lead others. I hope you're ready to move on to the next level, even as you take the community to the place where God has prepared it to be. Like I said, we're going to be giving access to some opportunities that are coming. You'll get to hear more from me tomorrow, okay? And then we're also going to be giving certificates to those that have been very much active. So just say kudos and well done to you. All right, so we're going to be giving that instructions from tomorrow morning. But for now, we're going to open the group for you to go share your feedback based on the lessons that you have learned, and really just see to it that we're able to interact with all that you'll be sharing. Have an amazing night rest, everyone. Bye bye. Take care.